At 65, I was supposed to be in the Navy. Not literally, of course, but in a trailer by the ocean, in shorts with a drink and with Ellen, my wife, who has stood by me for 42 years. But instead, I was standing in a bathrobe in a burned-out house, holding a bill and unable to breathe. It all started with a dream and ended with a cold shower. I have always believed in simple things. Bread, bacon, TV, and some savings. I worked as a car mechanic since I was 19. I saved every penny, didn't drink, didn't gamble. The neighbors used to say, "Harvey, you're a miser." Ellen would say, "Harvey, you're waiting for something." And I was. Pension. Everything was planned. Ellen and I had a sign that said, Florida 2024. It was going to be our big hurrah. We had even picked out a trailer, a blue one with a white line. Almost like a yacht, but without a captain. And just when everything was almost ready, he appeared. Jason, young in a suit, with a smile like a talk show host. I met him at a graduation party through an old friend. They were talking about investments, about passive income, about diversification. I couldn't even pronounce the words, and Jason was throwing them around like cowboys with lassos. Then I got a call, and then another one, and he invited me to a meeting. A free consultation. "Harvey, you have money lying around. You can earn even more than you planned, and without taking any risks." I told Ellen, "Give me a chance. I'll just see." We met at a coffee shop. Jason opened his laptop and opened the slides. He showed me graphs, blue lines, green arrows. I watched like a TV. I didn't understand anything, but it looked beautiful. Then he said, "All large pension funds work like this. You don't lose, you only win." He talked about protection, insurance, and flexibility, and not once did he mention risk. And then he pulled out a tablet and said, "Harvey, just sign here so I can send you the analysis." I signed, with my finger, because Jason was smiling like it was a Christmas present. And when I got home, Ellen put tea on the table and looked at me as if I had brought a snake from the market. "What did he say?" she asked. "He said we could make more money," I replied. "What do I have to do?" Just give him the management of part of the retirement account. He's an expert." "Harvey, are we experts?" I waved my hand. Ellen often criticized everything, but there was something in her eyes then. Anxiety, uncertainty, a shadow of doubt. But I was proud. I was a man. I want to give her more, not just a pension, a queen's vacation. 2 weeks later, I received the first report. The stock was up. Investments in green energy. Had something to do with cryptocurrencies. Jason called every week. "Do you see? It's already up 6%. And this is just the beginning." I started showing off to the neighbors, to my son. Ellen was silent. Turkey, she just cooked dinner and listened in silence. And one evening, when I was talking about the growth strategy, she suddenly said, "Harvey, I've been dreaming about burning papers. A pile of papers, and your signature on top." I laughed, but a chill went down my spine. The next morning I woke up and there was an email from the bank on my phone. The transfer did not go through. A week later again, I called Jason. He didn't answer. A day later, I called again. "The subscriber is not available." I wrote a letter. Silence. Ellen was no longer silent. "Harvey, are we in trouble?" I didn't realize it yet, but something was already falling apart inside me. When I went to the office on the business card, the door was locked, and someone had written on the glass eggs, "Fraudster." I stood in the middle of the street, business card in hand. The wind was blowing, and garbage was flying under my feet. The world around me was the same. But I was not the same Harvey. And somewhere in my heart, a cold shower had already poured. And this was just the beginning. They say if you're happy, don't check your bank account. And I, a fool, lived like that. But when you wake up in the middle of the night and can't remember how much you have left, your happiness is over. After the first blow, it always seems like an accident. But the truth is that if someone hits you in the face, they won't stop after the first round. I was convinced that it was some kind of technical error. Hey, all those conversations in the bank. The system is updating. Processing delay, contact your broker. But I already knew Jason was gone. His phone was silent. His email was returning. Undeliverable. Etha and his website, which had been sparkling with advice about financial freedom yesterday, was now showing some kind of ad for discount socks. But I didn't give up, because I am Harvey, and Harvey doesn't give up. I still believed that it was just a misunderstanding. So I did something I hadn't done since '98. I went to the police station. The station was cold, smelling of coffee and tired people. And I explained everything: how I met, how I signed, how I invested. The young officer, whose name was Tom, nodded, but his eyes were already saying, "Another story of an old fool." They took the application. They promised to get back to me. And I left not with relief, but with emptiness. When I told Ellen, she didn't scream. She just sat down. She sat down like a person who already knew that this movie was not a comedy. And she said one sentence: we need to tell the children. Ellen and I have two. My son, Mike. The daughter is Judy. Neither of them are saints, but they are sharks in this kind of thing. Mike works in insurance, Judy is an accountant. And they never trusted me with money. Especially Judy. At Christmas she said, "Dad, don't invest in anything that has a shiny logo and words like strong income." When I told them, Mike just stepped aside and didn't speak for 5 minutes, and Judy cried, not because I lost the money, but because I didn't listen. "How much, Dad?" I didn't say anything. She asked me again. "How much?" 130,000. Fuck. I had never heard my daughter swear, but that day I did, and it hurt more than any piece of paper. Mike, being a man of action, immediately started looking. He found Jason's other clients. An old man from Texas lost 60,000. A woman from Minnesota lost almost everything she had. And they all said the same thing. Such a nice guy. So convincing. And he always said we were safe. They created a Facebook group. They called it Jason the Con Man. I joined it. But every post was a stab in the heart. People lost more than just money. They lost their faith. And sometimes they lost their roofs over their heads. I am not the type to break down. But one evening I was standing in the mirror, and I wanted to punch that Harvey in the reflection. Because I had to know. I had to check. I should have. Don't blame yourself, Ellen said, quietly, as if she was afraid I was going to explode. But I blew it. No, you didn't. She took my hand. You blew the money. But we still have the house, and each other. But that blue trailer let it stay in my dreams. But I knew it wasn't over. This was just round 2. A week later, Mike said, "Dad, we have a chance." One of the victims found a trail. Jason is not completely gone. He was seen in Vegas, under a different name, but with the same smile. And then I realized that if I didn't do something now, he would be gone forever. I looked at Ellen. She nodded. I looked at Judy. She was already typing something into her phone. And only Mike said loudly, "Dad, we're going hunting. You only win the first few rounds, and then you either stand or fall." And I decided to stand. They say that if the glass breaks, you can't glue it back together. But if trust breaks, don't even try. Because when it breaks, you don't hear a bell ring. You just look at the person across from you and realize that there is nothing left but shards. It was a Saturday morning. Ellen was baking her signature pumpkin pie, the kind that even our old neighbor Joe, who hates everything but bacon, asked for the recipe. The house smelled like cinnamon and coffee. But I knew something was wrong. She wasn't singing. Ellen always sang in the morning. I was sitting at that damned glass table she used to want, and I said, "It'll break as soon as the grandson comes over with a toy." But now it stood there as a symbol. Transparent, cold, and fragile. Do you realize that we could have gone on a trip like we dreamed of?" She said, not looking at me. "Or we could have finally seen Paris, Harvey, and you gave Paris to a crook in a suit." I wanted to say something. But what? That I was sorry. She already knew that I'd tried my best. Those words didn't work anymore. Tell me one thing. Her voice was quiet, but sharp as a knife. Have you ever felt like I was too small for you? It was like a shot, though right in the chest. Because the truth is, sometimes I thought so. She was brighter, smarter, more open. And I just worked, collecting, pull and dreamed, often not with her. And I remembered the evenings when she wanted to watch old movies together, and I said, "Leave me alone, I'm counting the income." She would bring tea and I wouldn't even look up. And now, that tea those evenings, her smile, all of this has become a memory. "I'm tired of being second to your plans," she said, "and second to Jason too. Now I'm second to a con man. What a humiliation, Harvey." I don't know what I said. Maybe I raised my voice. Maybe I tried to hug her. But she backed away, and she took one careless step. She hit the table with her elbow, and the glass cracked. Then it fell. Then it shattered into thousands of pieces. We both stood in silence, all our years scattered on the floor. Ellen just walked out, without a word, without a bag. She just left. I was left alone, with the wreckage under my feet. I sat and remembered every "I love you," I hadn't said. Every moment when she was waiting and I was busy. And in that silence, I realized I can return the money. But could I get her back? In the evening, the phone rang. It was Judy. "A dad, have you talked to Mom?" A she. She broke the table. And a heart. Mine, and probably hers too. "She's at my place." She came in silence. He sat down on the couch. She just said, "I can't take it anymore." A Judy, "Dad, we love you. But you have to change something. And you have to do it fast." I was sitting in the kitchen, still smelling like pie. And I thought, I've already gone through 2 rounds with Jason. But the third one is my most difficult. Because now it's not about money. It's about Ellen. And if I lose her, I won't get anything back. Not even myself. Sometimes a letter carries not news but a sentence. Sometimes white paper with printed text hurts more than your wife's voice saying, "I'm leaving." And it's even worse when it comes when you can barely breathe. It's Monday. The kitchen window is slightly fogged up, as if the world outside didn't want to see me. Ellen still hasn't returned. Judy hasn't called. A neighbor brought pies, but I didn't even open them. Why? When you have a hole in your chest, you can't fill it with a pie. I made myself some coffee. No sugar, because sweets seemed like a mockery now, and that's when I saw the letter. Gray with the official stamp of the bank, a window through which my name was visible. Harvey Bloom, North Chicago. The account number is an old friend of mine. "Dear Mr. Bloom, we would like to inform you of the permanent closure of investment account number such and such due to detected financial fraudulent activity associated with Representative Jason Wheeler." This was followed by a stream of legalese. Violation: withdrawal of funds, no compensation is provided, investigation is ongoing, cooperate with investigators. And another phrase that will haunt me at night. Accounts at the time of closing $0. I sat down. I crossed my fingers to stop them from shaking. I looked at the wall. There was still an old photo of me and Ellen. Young, smiling, she was holding my hand. And I was so happy, as if the future was definitely on our side. $0, it's like a slap in the face. Like a mockery of everything you've done for 40 years. I worked nights, and I didn't take vacations. I saved on myself. And now I have 0, like I'm worthless. I clenched that letter in my fist. I wanted to scream. Smash all the fucking kitchen utensils, scream at the bank, the system, Jason, myself. I wanted to say, I did everything right. I played by the rules. But someone didn't, and someone lost. I remembered Jason sitting at the same table and drawing me charts. "Look, Harvey, here is the growth, and here is the guaranteed plus." His smile. His hand with a watch more expensive than my car. His "Don't worry, I'll give you a golden old age." And now he's gone. His office is empty. His phone is silent. And most importantly, he didn't do it by accident. He knew. And I believed him. Because I wanted to believe. Because I wanted more than I had. Because I thought I deserved it. The phone rang. An unfamiliar number. I picked it up. "Mr. Bloom." It's Agent Laura Mendez from the Financial Crimes Unit. I almost dropped the phone. We're working on a case against Jason Wheeler. He has my money, I said as if I were talking through ice. You're not alone. I've already lost everything. Not quite. If we can prove the intent and the withdrawal of funds, we can get compensation through the insurance fund. I didn't believe it. It was like promising ice cream to a man who had just had his legs amputated. But I agreed to the meeting. I hung up the phone and looked at the letter again. It no longer burned my hands, it only reminded me. This is not the end. Even though I'm down, I'm still breathing. I pulled out an old notebook from the drawer. I need to find everyone who might have been hurt by Jason. If the bank won't give me an army, I'll raise one myself. My war had just begun. If I had put his name into a search engine earlier, I might be sitting with Ellen in Florida today, drinking an umbrella cocktail and counting the interest. But I didn't. I trusted it. And Google doesn't trust anyone, and it just shows the truth. And this truth, as it turned out, doesn't like suits or smiles. The next morning I woke up earlier than usual, not because of the alarm clock. It was the anxiety in my chest that kept me awake. The kind that whispers, "Harvey, don't just sit there, do something." I put the kettle on. I didn't want coffee anymore. It began to be associated with those mornings when I thought I still had a future. I opened my laptop. It was old, but still working. And for the first time in so many years, instead of baseball news, meet discounts, I typed in Google, Jason Wheeler investment fraud. And do you know what came up? The first thing that came up was an article on some unknown forum. Beware, Jason Wheeler of North Shore Investments is a fraud. I opened it. A woman named Claire Rutin. He made me sell my house, promised a guaranteed scheme. 6 months later, nothing. He disappeared. I'm now living in a trailer by the road and my son won't talk to me anymore. There are more comments under that post. More than 20. People from different states. Some lost their retirement accounts, others lost their children's education, others just lost their faith in people. And I realized that I was not the only one. This is not my personal tragedy. This is a scheme. It's a well-established, cold, cynical scheme. He had been spinning it for years, and no one stopped him, because we are pensioners. We are a convenient target. We don't check, we believe. We have been taught that a suit is authority, a smile is sincerity, and beautiful words are the truth. I leaned back in my chair. There was a lot of noise in my head. A new voice was being born inside. Hard, broken, but healed. You're not going to be a fool anymore, Harvey. I entered the next quiring. How to report investment fraud US 8. The form was on the SEC website. I filled in everything. Every line was a step of revenge. At each number is like a nail in the coffin for Jason. Next, he wrote on Reddit. Then on Facebook. Then I found a group of victims, and suddenly my laptop became a weapon. I became a general, old, a little hunched over, but with eyes that had fire in them again. And then the phone rang. Harvey, it's Ellen? I froze. I saw your post on Facebook. People are sharing, commenting. Are you serious? He stole from us all. And I'm finally doing something about it. She fell silent. And then quietly, I'm proud of you. These words are like a warm blanket in an icy shower. I didn't ask her to come back. But at that moment I realized that all was not lost. I turned to my laptop. A new message was already flashing. It was from some man in Arizona. Harvey, I've been hurt too. I know where his brother is. He might know where he's hiding. I smiled. This game is not over yet, and I'm still playing. Not for the money, but for myself. I didn't think I'd ever get on an airplane again after I turned 60. And not even to a resort, but to hell, Las Vegas. When an old friend from Florida wrote to me. His brother works in a casino. Jason is somewhere nearby. I realized that there would be no more chances. It was either now or never. My son helped me buy the ticket. He didn't ask any questions. He just said, "Dad, if you're sure, go. But be careful. This is not a movie." And I thought, exactly, this is not a movie. This is much worse. The flight was short, but my mind was going through the motions. Bah, I kept telling myself. You're not there for the money. You are there for answers. For justice and for yourself. Leaving the airport was like a punch in the face. The heat, the dry air, the and neon promises everywhere. Welcome to the city where dreams either come true or burn to the ground. I was met by the same man from the internet, Bob, 63 years old, a taxi driver, a former sailor. He said briefly. I saw him last week. He was visiting his brother at the casino. He looked, as usual, calm, confident, as if nothing had happened. I nodded. My heart was already pounding, as if it was going to beat its way through my ribs. The Gold Lantern Casino wasn't the most luxurious, but it wasn't cheap either. A typical Vegas building, golden doors, purple carpet, the smell of air conditioning and tired dreams. Bob left me at the entrance. I said, if I'm not out in an hour, you know what to do. He replied with a smile, if you need me, I have a bat. For guys like him. Inside, there is noise, glitter, girls with trays, old people with machine guns, young people with chips. But I'm not on vacation. I was looking for his brother. And I was told John Weller works at the payout counter. It all came together. I got in line. In front of me was a man in a Hawaiian shirt. Behind him was a woman with gray hair and an angry look. Hi, I said. I'm looking for Jason. He smiled at first. Then he froze. I don't know who you mean. Your brother. Jason, the investor. The con man. His hand trembled. Look, I had nothing to do with that. Then tell me where he is. He looked me in the eye. He sighed. He's in town. But he doesn't live here permanently. He has an apartment in Henderson. He comes here when he needs to. Take a break from business. Usually with girls, expensive suits, and other people's money. I asked him, don't you care what he does? You try growing up with him. Jason was always the best. Smarter. And all I had to do was hand out chips to pensioners. He wrote the address on a napkin. He looked at Meg. If something happens, I didn't see you. I smiled. If something happens, I'll take a selfie. I'll post it on Facebook. I left the casino. The sun was already setting. I had a napkin with an address on my hand. There was silence in my head. Finally silence, because ahead of me was Jason Weller's apartment. Ella and the answer I was looking for. In the movies, everything is simple. The main character enters, the music rises, and evil immediately loses ground. But in real life, evil opens the door in a bathrobe with a cup of coffee and says, "Oh, my friend, come in. It's been a long time." The apartment was modest. More precisely, it was old. It looked like a temporary shelter for a person who doesn't like to settle down. Scuffed walls, stained curtains, the smell of smoke and coffee. But most importantly, he was there. Jason. He was sitting in the kitchen, as if waiting. And he wasn't even surprised. He just nodded and said, "Well, Harvey, you're finally here." I went in. I closed the door behind me. We were left alone. No witnesses. One-on-one with the devil who was once my friend. You stole everything from me," I said without sitting down. "Not everything," he replied. "You still have anger, and you seem to have a lot of time on your hands." He drank his coffee slowly. "I trusted you with my money, Jason. I trusted you with my life. My retirement, my dreams," he shrugged. "I told you, investing is a risk. You signed the documents." "I signed the trust," I said. Then he suddenly put down his cup. He leaned forward and whispered, "You know what, Harvey, I've never regretted it. Not for a single minute. People are so stupid that they want to be lied to beautifully. I was just better at it than most. I didn't say anything. Because for a moment I realizing I was in front of a real predator. Smiling, well-groomed, intelligent, and cold as ice in a martini. You had a good pension. You lived a better life than most. And now you want to what? Return the money. I want to look you in the eye and ask why." He thought about it. "And ask you why," he paused. Because I can. You taught me to be ambitious, remember? In 1997, at a conference in San Diego. The MOA said, the main thing is to pretend that you are already on top. I took a small recorder out of my pocket. "Say that again," I said. He laughed. "What, you're a detective now?" Too late. No one can prove anything. The papers were destroyed long ago. There's no trace. I'm free. Not quite, I said. Because I'm not alone. I recorded an interview with your brother. There are letters from clients. There are others who have suffered. We are. He looked at me a little differently. And what do you want? A choice, I said. Or you give back at least some of it. At least to those who have no more chances. The old, the widows, the disabled. You remember Mrs. Thompson, don't you? She's in a home now. Because of you? Or I give it all to the media. You'll be a meme. But not a funny one. You'll be the one crying in the dock, with diapers and handcuffs. He was silent for a long time. Then he stood up, walked to the window. He looked at the lights of Vegas. Then he said, okay, but not all at once. I know how to get some of it back. Through an account in Panama. There's a man. I interrupted. I didn't come to hear stories. I came to see action. Tomorrow. Money. A transfer. Any check. He nodded. Tomorrow. If not, I'm hitting publish. And you go down the drain. I left the apartment. I felt my hands trembling. Not from fear, but from anger. From hatred for the person hiding under the mask of a friend. But this was not the end. Because the devil does not play one round. And in the morning, something worse than a lie was waiting for me. They say if you're in trouble, call a lawyer. But what if the trouble is so deep that you don't even have money left to call? I woke up to a call. It was 7 o'clock in the morning. The number was unfamiliar, but my intuition told me to answer it. Harvey. It's Tina. It's Tina, the secretary from Black's office. He wants you to know that he was arrested this morning. They took him right out of his apartment. I sat down. My head was spinning. Not with joy, but with foreboding. What about the money? It's still under investigation. And yes, he managed to report your threat. Tina sighed. No, now the police lawyer is interested in you. I gathered all the documents. I had investment contracts, letters, old receipts. Everything in one old folder with yellowed edges. Somehow it used to give me confidence. Now it was just a pain in the stomach. I went to see a lawyer. I got a number from Google. The reviews seemed to be good. Although one wrote that. He talks more than he acts. I didn't pay attention. I needed something. The office was somewhere between an auto parts store and an abandoned beauty salon. The sign on the door read, Johnny McDade Esq. The font was a little worn. The bell didn't work, so I just pushed the door open. Come in. I heard from inside. Inside was an air-conditioned space with the smell of old coffee. Behind the desk was a man about 65 with a pleading face. Give me another chance. Are you Harvey? Sit down. I've already heard the story. It's a big one. You're one of the guys Black dumped, right? I nodded. He was my friend. They're all the friends until they realize they can sell you for a couple thousand. But Johnny spoke reasonably slowly with a soft southern accent. He looked like someone who had once been a star but was now barely keeping his head above water. Listen, Harvey, you have a chance. It's a long shot, but you have a chance. If we can prove fraud, some of Black's assets can be seized, if he hasn't already hidden something. But lawyers cost money, and we don't have a lot of time, before this drags on for years and everything goes cold. I don't have any money. Everything I had went to Black. Johnny looked me straight in the eye, for a long time. I'll do it. No fee up front. But if we win, we take a percentage. I didn't know whether to trust him. But there was no choice. It was either sit in the kitchen again and read articles on how to survive retirement without a pension. I have a few other clients on the Black case, Johnny said, but they're afraid. They think it will do nothing, that the court is only for those who have money. And us for ourselves. We'll set an example. If we lose, at least we will lose loudly. I signed the papers. My hands were shaking a little. There was a cup of coffee on the table. At the bottom, there was a thick and black sediment. For some reason, I thought, this is what hope looks like at 65, a little bitter. but still warm. Before leaving, Johnny said, by the way, Black has a brother. He's in New Jersey, and there are rumors that some of the money was transferred to him. We'll check it out. How? The old-fashioned way. Phone calls, mail, and an old lady in Ohio who knows how to dig better than the FBI. Her husband got hurt. She is now like a shark sniffing for blood. I left the office with the feeling that something had begun. A new round. No guarantees, no money, but with the belief that truth is also a currency. And when it matures, it can hit hard. But for now, this is just a story about a lawyer who has nothing to pay, and an old man who hasn't given up yet. The last thing I expected to see sitting on the hard bed of the shelter was the smiling face of my investment advisor. On TikTok. And you know what? He was dancing. He was dancing, damn it. In a multi-$1,000 suit. And the caption under the video. Wake up and make money, brother. I slept on cardboard. Well, not literally, but the bed in the men's night shelter in Denver is a cross between a park bench and an old Craigslist couch. People around me snored, mumbled, and sunk to themselves. One was shouting at the wall that he is Jesus. I thought to myself, maybe he is. Maybe everything is mixed up in this world. I was evicted 2 weeks ago. The court, the notary, the suitcase on the stairs. Everything was like a movie. It's ironic because my house was supposed to be part of a long-term investment. Instead, it became part of a fund that was dissolved due to insolvency. I called Ellen. She didn't answer the phone. And then she wrote, Harvey, I can't take it anymore. I've moved to Arizona. I wish you strength. I didn't answer. I just sat on the sidewalk with a plastic bag of documents and 2 shirts. I found free We Are Fi in the library and foolishly I typed in his name, just his first and last name, and TikTok spit out a video. One video, then another. Then a whole series. Black's is in Vegas. He makes motivational videos. He says that he fell, but got up. Sells courses. Course, damn it. And people write in the comments, you are my hero. Inspiration. Brother, give me your number. He was of that breed, handsome in the frame, charismatic, but slippery like an eel. His phrases are glossy, empty. I see an opportunity. I seize the moment. Money is energy. Whoever holds the energy holds the power. And my favoriting. My clients are my family. I wanted to smash the phone, but it was an old, foreign phone that I had been given in a charity mission. So I just looked at the screen and whispered, what about me? I'm not fam, am I? I started spending my days on the street. Sometimes I worked part-time jobs, unloading, mailing, delivering. I slept in a shelter. But most importantly, I collected information. I was no longer just an old man who had been deceived. I was a hunter, even if I only had a plastic knife and spoiled coffee. One evening, Johnny, the lawyer, called. We have news, and we found a trace, a crypto wallet. It's connected to his brother, and there are transfers to an outside account. This could be a breakthrough. Are you sure? I'm as sure as I am that my office smells like old pizza. But, we need to act fast. Before he gets away again, I want you to come to Vegas. With your eyes. People are afraid, and you have nothing left to lose. I took a bus ticket. Cheap, smelly, but I didn't care. I was traveling like a hunter, with a hin in an old jacket, with old boots, with a head full of rage. I arrived in Vegas and stayed in a hostel where I rented a bed for $40. Johnny put me in touch with a private investigator. He was an ex-cop. His name was Rudy. This guy plays for the camera, but he lives like a ghost. He uses a rental car, stays in hotels not under his own name. But I will find him. I was standing outside the Circa Hotel on Fremont Street when I first saw Black live again. He was walking with 2 girls, laughing, holding a cocktail, and talking on his phone. I told you, bro, you either seize the moment or the moment seizes you. I took a step forward. Then another one, and then I stopped. 'Cause what do you say to a person who has burned your life and doesn't even regret it? There were 2 thoughts in my head. The first was to grab him. The second was to film everything on camera and show it to the world. And let his entire TikTok turn into shame. I chose the second option. Rudy held the camera. We filmed everything, and then we threw it online, on Reddit, in Facebook groups of retirees, under the hashtag #BleaksBack. The comments came quickly. "It's that scammer! My uncle was also affected. Finally, someone showed his true face." But you know what? He didn't disappear. On the contrary, he recorded a video response. Yes, I was at the bottom. But you don't know the whole story. I was betrayed, I fought. And I am still fighting. My door is open to those who want to talk, not blame. And suddenly the audience was divided. Some were in favor of him, some were against him. I became a character in his show, and I'm sitting here right now in my dorm. And I'm thinking, who are we in a world where the criminal is a brand, and the victim is just a comment under the video? The scammer is on TikTok, and I'm in a shelter. But the game is not over yet. At that moment, everything in my life looked like a piece of rope that was about to break. And just when I was sure that there was nothing but darkness, she called. Ellen. The same Ellen who went to Arizona and didn't want to see me. But the voice on the phone was different. Gentle, tired, and a little guilty. "Hi, Harvey. I saw your video. On TikTok it was scary and sad. I didn't realize it had gotten to this point. I didn't say anything. I listened to her breathing. It used to be my compass. Now it was just noise from the distant past. I'm not calling to blame you," she continued. I have something to say. It's important. Can you come?" "Where?" "Oh, I'm not in Arizona anymore. I'm in Colorado Springs. I'm at my mom's. Just get here. It won't take long. Ellen and I lived together for almost 30 years. We met in the rain, and we were both late for a friend's wedding, both without umbrellas. I covered her with my jacket. She laughed and said I looked like a character in a cheap melodrama. That night we drank 3 glasses of wine and discussed old age. And as ironic as it may sound, I said, "I will make sure you have a carefree retirement, my love." I took a bus and headed to Colorado Springs. The road was gray and quiet. I looked out the window and thought, why now? What made her remember me? Was it pity? Was it guilt? Or maybe she was in trouble herself. Her mother's house stood on a slope, the same one where we used to celebrate Christmas. She opened the door herself. She had grayed and lost weight, but her eyes were the same. Blue deep ones in which I used to drown. Mom is in the hospital. We're alone. We were sitting in the kitchen. We were drinking tea. Ellen was staring at me like I was a ghost. Didn't leave for nothing, Harvey. I knew. About Black. I knew he was suspicious. But you were so enthusiastic. I told you it looked like a scam. You were yelling. You were insulted. You said I didn't believe in you. Why didn't you say anything? I asked quietly. Because I was tired, because you weren't listening. Because I was afraid to with you when everything collapsed. I didn't know what to say. Everything inside was burning, with anger, with shame, because part of my failure was her, my Ellen, the one who knew. But she didn't say anything. I'm not responsible for your loss, Harvey, but maybe I could have made it a little less painful. She pulled out an old envelope. It was yellow with slightly crumpled edges. You wrote to me when you were in Vietnam. There was something in it that seems important to me even now. I opened the letter. My handwriting. My youth. If I survive, I want to live honestly, not to live for money, but for the feeling that we are not alone, that someone somewhere breathes the same way as I do and wants good. We were both silent. The words of that letter were like a slap in the face, because I did not survive, not completely. I remained alive in my body, but my soul had long since surrendered. I sold my old age for the promise of high interest rates and pretty numbers in spreadsheets. I don't want to go back, Harvey, she said quietly. Don't think this visit is a chance to make things right. I just didn't want you to be alone. I really didn't. Because I still remember what you were like. I nodded. No anger, without hope. And I don't know what I am now. But maybe it's worth finding out without Black. Without the lies. Maybe just leave something real behind. She pulled out another envelope, a newer one. A bank form. I checked Mom's account. A Black wired the money through one of her old brokerage accounts. Not directly. But there was a trail. I looked at the numbers and suddenly realized that the game was just beginning. And now I have an ally I didn't expect, in an ex-wife who hasn't disappeared. In movies about old age, everything ends with a cup of tea, a warm blanket, and grandchildren. But life is not a movie. Sometimes it leaves you with a plastic cup of coffee from a vending machine, a cheap suit, no money, no home, and a lot of questions that no one is going to answer. Ellen and I filed the documents. Through a lawyer whom I paid with. Nothing. He agreed to a percentage if he won the case, and that was an act of faith. Someone else believed in me, at least a little bit. If we get on the trail of Black's assets, the lawyer said, we can freeze his accounts. And if not, then you're still a hero on YouTube, but not in real life. In my former attic apartment, I found a box of discs, old photos, old letters, even a postcard from Black's first investor meeting. It read, "We don't just make money. We change lives." Ironic, perhaps. But on the back was a small print with the address of the Texas branch, which, according to official registration, never existed. I spent the night in a shelter. A guy named Marty showed me how to find documents that were not in the public domain. He used to be a system administrator, now he sleeps on the floor and reads legal blogs. "You're not the first," he said. "But if you make enough noise, others will come. People who have been ripped off by Black. They're out there. They're just not talking." I recorded the video. No music, just me, a night lamp, and my story. Compressed into 20 minutes of sincerity. Everything was there: shame, anger, remorse. In 3 days I had 50,000 views. A week later 200,000, and then it got even stranger. I was found. Jane is a widow who has lost everything. Eric is an accountant who worked with Black and signed papers without reading them. Mila is the daughter of an old man who died before he could get his deposit back. We got together. In a cafe that looked more like a garage. If we all 7 strangers. If we all go to court together, Eric said. It won't be a lawsuit. It would be an explosion. I started to thinking, what do I really want? To get back my lost capital. I don't think so. It's too late for that. Or maybe I want revenge. Maybe. But even more, I wanted to say something. To tell, not to be silent. To make sure that no one else believed people like Black. Ellen arrived at the next group meeting. She was standing on the side, listening. Then she came up to me. I sent a request to the bank. I found another account. It's in the name of a relative of Black's. But the address is an old post office in Nevada. You can dig there. I looked at it, and at that moment I realized that nothing would ever be the same again. And that's a good thing. We returned to Vegas. The same place where it all started. Only now I was no longer a target. I was, at least a participant, a witness, and a little bit of a hunter. We found the office. It was empty, but there was a safe. The old, black, heavy, and there were documents in it, not money, not gold. Just papers, amounts, checks. And I realized, this is not just a fraudster. This is a system. This is a scheme. TIS is a monster that works on fear, trust, and our old age naivety. We have not won. Not yet. But we didn't lose either. We wrote to the New York Times. We got a response. We were called on the air. I look in the mirror and I don't see the Harvey who was sitting on the floor of the shelter. I see a man who has found his voice. And this is already something. This story is not over. And maybe it will never end. Because every day the phone rings again somewhere, and someone says, I invested in the same thing. Help me. And I answer, tell me your story, and then we'll fight together. That was Harvey, but a man who at 65 was left with nothing. But he found something else. If this resonates with you, subscribe, because the story is not over yet, and maybe the next one will be yours.